Sarah, before you jump up, I'm going to give a little background on you. Sarah is currently the head of strategy for a fintech company called Time Leo, and the CEO of Time Leo is also in attendance, Charlotte, so thank you for coming along. I'd also like to mention that you are the Chief Operating Officer and Head of Strategy for Startup Victoria Female Founders, which is another interesting little side job, side gig as they call it. Sarah recently departed a role as a commercial manager at Allen's, and in order to completely immerse herself in the new economic order of startups and small business. So I'm really intrigued to hear what Sarah has to tell us about why she left the comfort of large corporate to move into the dynamic world of startups and small business. Sarah Worboys.
Very comfortable. I still miss the chef when I work late. I suppose I'll start in December last year. I was working at Allen's, as Cameron mentioned. My role was working primarily with the executives across a couple of different national practice groups. I was there to maximise profit per unit, and I looked after about $140 million worth of revenue. I sat on the charity committee. I was part of the Accelerate team, which was a whole group of people really keen to bring in high quality, high potential startups into the firm at an early stage and begin those relationships really at the core, at the beginning of their existence. And take a couple of bets on big ones. Probably the biggest thing that I was excited about my time at Allen's, and I loved my job, I sat on the executive leadership team as well. So I worked with primarily the COO and the managing partner. And I was really there to just make sure that the executives were doing what they were told, as well as ensuring that we were on strategy and that we had a lot of basically ticking the boxes along the way and listening to the firm as we went. And while I was doing that, I was part of Startup Victoria, female founders, trying to bring in more and better founders into our ecosystem. So I suppose I'll start with why anybody would be crazy enough to walk away from a job that is quite comfortable. You know you've got a good trajectory where you are, I could have stayed there for a really long time. And for me, it was really a case of, it started probably 10 years ago when I started at Ernst & Young and I was a corporate poster child. I loved my job. I always wanted to work at Ernst & Young. They were my employer of choice. Essentially, I got my dream job. I was there for nearly 5 years, and by the time I got to the end of that 5 years, it was kind of, I wasn't learning what I wanted to learn anymore. It was that, it's not you, it's me, and I don't even know why I'm leaving because you're my family. I'm not getting the skills that I need to succeed and to have an interesting career. So I did what any reformed accountant does, and I got into management consulting. So I joined a boutique management consulting firm and started to really build my skills out in analytical thinking and problem solving in a way that I hadn't learned how to do at Ernst & Young. And I suppose I thought I'd never go back to financial services, so probably a relevant fact here is that I worked in the financial services office for about 5 years, and my banking, insurance, funds management experience has come back around again. Essentially, while I was working in management consulting, I happened to bump into what would be the founding team of the York Butter Factory, which is a co-working space for technology entrepreneurs all over the Realtor on King Street. And I ended up accidentally becoming part of the team, setting the infrastructure behind that space up. So I did what any reformed accountant does and said, I'll do the accounting, because I can do that bit. And also got involved in a number of other things like running events. And my introduction to startups was really, who are these people? They're living on beer and skills, and they seem really excited all the time, and they earn no money. I don't get it. It's all insane. I couldn't get my head around it. I'd quite like acquiring more than one pair of shoes a year and not having it impact my budget. So I kind of got to the point where I thought, well, I need to learn about what these people are doing and why they're so damn excited, because I'm kind of high on the buzz, but I don't get it yet. So essentially I just started to attend to everything. And I would recommend anybody that wants to know what startups look like, what innovation looks like, just to start attending everything. And everything at that time wasn't as much as there is now. There's a lot more noise. But back then it was startup weekends, where you show up at a startup weekend, you pitch idea on a Friday night. Everybody votes around your idea, and you join teams, and then you essentially at the end of the weekend you built a prototype and you pitch it to a panel of venture capitalists, founders who have exited already, and my startup was terrible. That was my first failure. I'll tell you about it later if you want to hear about it. But it was a great learning experience, and you realise it's not that easy to actually build something that people believe in. I attended networking drinks like Silicon Beach, which is, it used to really, when it started out, it was kind of spot the female. It was a lot of techie people kind of talking, pitching at you everywhere, and everyone was really excited. I still didn't get it. During this time, I was basically at YBF nearly every night after work. And eventually I left my management consulting role and I went to Allen's. So I still didn't get it, obviously. I'm still in corporate and wanted to build my skills out within a business instead of joining these crazy startup people. So again, I like shoes. So I kept attending things, and a year in to YBF, or around a year in, I started a networking group for female entrepreneurs called the Ladies of York. And really I started that with my co-founder, Rashinda Bimulin, who runs a very successful digital agency called Integrity. And we did it just to get the girls together initially because women network differently to men, and we were talking to all of the women and they weren't often talking to each other, and they had their heads down and they were just kind of getting stuff done and going home. We thought, well, let's drag them upstairs. So in the early days it was just us going downstairs, dragging women away from their computers and making them come up and have champagne together. And so it evolved, and it happened for probably a good couple of years. We actually didn't have to drag them up anymore. Then we had a recurring group of women that got together, and that's why I'm now with Startup Victoria, because we've extended it to, it's essentially co-working space agnostic now. It doesn't matter where you are, you should have access to this network. And I suppose from there, I saw a lot of things, and I learned a lot from the women in that group, and really it was just around, it's not as easy as you think it would be to run a business and to have people believe in you and your ideas. And it doesn't also matter how good your idea is, because timing is everything. If it's a crap time, then it doesn't matter. And if it's a good time but your execution's crap, then it doesn't matter because somebody else will do it. And something that I noticed was resilience is such a key element of what ultimately becomes success in execution in a startup. And it's not something that you're necessarily starting out with. And I wouldn't say I've always been a super resilient person, but I think you build that muscle. And nothing builds that muscle like being said no to 100,000 times by every investor, by every potential customer. And I witnessed this over and over again, and I saw these people building this concept of resilience around me. I didn't realise what it was at the time. So essentially, skipping through my cards. So what I've seen in that time as well has been a number of startups fail, and by fail I don't mean that people have just crawled up into a corner and they never came out again. I mean that there was no market for them here. And so by Australia's standards they failed, but they've moved overseas and they've taken their skills with them and they've had success overseas. Kate Kendall is an example of a female founder who started in Melbourne and moved Cloud Peaks overseas and has seen tremendous success. I've seen people have sort of mini kind of exits and then transition themselves into really interesting roles in corporates, and for me I found that quite fascinating because I thought, well, those skills that they built are not redundant. In fact, they're giving them opportunity and access to things that I don't have right now with my skills. And that this is where I really started to notice that there's a skills shortage in this country. There is a tech skills shortage. This whole innovation agenda is going to be very difficult to execute on without those skills in this country. So, fast forward a few years, I've been attending everything. I've been drinking beer and eating Skittles and buying shoes because I still had a salary that was pretty good. And I'm watching companies lose market share overnight. And I realised that there is this wave coming, and it's not just about Australia anymore. It's about a global competition where we are actually not on a level playing field. And my skills are not going to help me ride that wave when it hits. I've got a great job in an excellent firm, and I'm surrounded by incredibly intelligent people, and I don't feel like I'm prepared to take advantage of this wave when it finally hits, and my career could take off, or I could become completely redundant and be searching for that spare time consulting job that might help me, because I thought management consulting was going to be it. So I guess if you then kind of sum all of that together, what I realised was I needed to develop those skills, and I wasn't going to get those where I was, not quickly anyway, not quickly enough. And I actually think that as a nation we're going to struggle to deliver on this whole innovation agenda thing unless we consider, we look at ourselves and we reflect on what it is that we're capable of delivering on. And it's not just about putting money into education and getting more kids through STEM, because when they get here, there'll be nothing here. So to me, it's really about upskill yourself. What are the skills of the future? What do you think you're going to need in order to be successful in 5 to 10 years? And those are the skills that we should be actually enabling the current, I guess, those with that risk profile slightly different to me, so might not jump out of corporate, but those still in corporate and government. So then they can enable the next generation and build a platform that they can be successful on. So the reason I left my corporate comfy job with my chef and my good big pay packet and people that I genuinely really care for still is because I also met another group of crazy people I really care for who have the attitude and the timing that really resonated with me for this product in market. Timeleo, I'll give you a quick overview, is a peer-to-peer platform that enables sellers of invoices to actually post these invoices onto a platform, and generally their debtors are large corporations and also government, because they take so long to pay. And we have on the other side of our platform investors who they will bid for a piece or a whole thing and take a rate of return that is essentially compensating them for that risk. And we've found that we're servicing part of the market that nobody else really is properly in this country. The banks aren't doing it, they're too risk averse to do it, and we know it's going to work because it's already taking off in the UK, the US, and in Europe. So I've also joined a founder whose motto is sell your house, quit your job, don't have a backup plan, start a company. So I've gone from very risk averse, what could go wrong, to, well, what if it goes right? And I think that's the attitude we need to move forward. So hopefully that explains why I left.